I got the summons slightly over 2 months ago. But Mr. Speaker, the nature of my work is that I've been doing some quite of traveling, not for leisure, not for tourism, but with the aim of assisting our country to open new market frontiers for our goods and services, and also to work with partner countries to attract foreign investment, which is very much required to get our country and our economy moving again. Mr. Speaker, I want to also take the opportunity to thank you and members of the Senate Business Committee and also members of the Senate in general for extending your invitation to me to appraise members on the role of the Kenya National Trading Corporation in addressing the high consumer prices for essential commodities. This, Mr. Speaker, is part of your mandate in considering all matters related to trade and indeed all matters related to our public affairs.
I've seen your written response filed. Now, I just proceed to answer the question as captured on page 2. Use the introduction as your reference notes, but go straight away to question 15, as you have done very well in your response, and then use that introduction as a part of your reference notes, so that we save on time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the question of the type and quantity of goods being imported by the corporation and individuals pre-qualified by the Kenya National Trading Corporation, KNTC, I would like to respond as follows. KNTC is currently dealing with the importation of 4 products, namely fertilizers, rice, beans, and cooking oil or edible oil. The corporation has pre-qualified the following suppliers for the supply of various commodities as stipulated before. Number 1 is Lamal Commodities Trading Corporation, DDMC, Standard Petroleum, Makram Imports and Exports, Pulma Holdings, Multi Commodities FZC, Shehena Commodity, Chalma Holdings, Evertech General Trading, Enterprise Supplies Limited, Loan Trading FCE, and Fast Quality Suppliers Limited. The public procurement, turning to B, what is the procedure used by KNTC to identify and pre-qualify companies which import the goods? Mr. Speaker, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, PPRA, through its letter to the National Treasury, reference as captioned in the document, dated the 18th of November 2022, confirmed that procurement for commodities and items for normal business trading do not constitute procurement in the meaning construed under Section 2 of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2022. KNTC's procurement is organized in 2 sets. For internal use and consumption, the transaction will be subject to the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Law. Transactions for trading items are progressed outside the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal framework with proper financing and accounting procedures put in place. And this, Mr. Speaker, is recognizing that KNTC is a commercial organization that survives on trading, getting the best offers and suppliers from the market, selling at the best price, and does not receive any funding from the exchequer for that purpose. So the procedure runs as follows. 1, In accordance with the timelines indicated by the clients, the manager of the sales division raises and signs appropriate purchase requisitions to initiate the procurement process. B, the manager sales division, with the support of the supply chain division, shall at the same time prepare specifications for the items to be procured. The experts in the department then they develop specifications or establishment of an internal team to prepare the specifications. C, the purchase requisition and the specific specifications are forwarded to the head of finance for commitment of funds. D, upon commitment of funds by finance, the procurement requisition and specifications, including any other relevant information, is then submitted to the managing director for approval. E, the purchase requisitions is then submitted to the supply chain division to commence the procurement process. F, quotations or bids are then received, opened, evaluated, and an opinion prepared in line with profit margin analysis recommendation for the accounting officer's approval. G, a purchase officer order or a contract agreement is then executed and issued expeditiously. Then the manager of the supply chain division liaises with suppliers and on the delivery schedules for the supplies, of ensuring smooth working of the ad hoc inspection and acceptance team. Only trading items that meet the corporation's requirement are accepted and taken on charge. Then all invoices for the procurement, inspection and acceptance certificates and of payment are officially received at the supply chain department for purpose of payment. And then we have got an annexure there which Honorable Speaker can be referred to for more details. Turning to question C, on how many companies were awarded business, those currently importing goods, the type and packaging of the commodities being imported during financial year 2021-2022 and financial year 2022-2023. KNTC engaged 11 suppliers for the various commodities in financial year 2022-2023 as tabulated in Annexure 15B. KNTC was not dealing with importation of commodities in the year 2021-2022. Mr. Speaker, on the financial state of KNTC, how much has been paid to the respective suppliers and how much is outstanding. The corporation relies on internally generated revenue to finance its operations. As a corporation that relies on internally generated funds from selling of goods or at minimal profit, we are constantly trying to balance between maintaining low prices for our customers while generating enough income to cover our administrative costs. The financial status of KNTC reflects this delicate balance as we strive to keep our prices affordable without compromising the quality of our products or the financial sustainability of the corporation. Mr. Speaker, the financial performance for KNTC over the past years is contained in that table, and you shall see that in terms of net income, 2022-2023 is at 67 million. The previous year was 96 million. That is 2021-2022, and In terms of recurrent revenue, as we speak, we are at 359 million Kenya shillings, down from 405 million in the preceding year. Amount paid to respective suppliers and balances outstanding. KNTC has procured imported commodities valued at Kenya shillings 22.2 billion as of 30th of April 2023. Commodities worth Kenya shillings 4.8 billion has been delivered. No payments have been made to date to the suppliers since the letters of credit are yet to mature. It must be remembered, Mr. Speaker, that business of the kind of type business you're talking here does not happen by direct cash payment or transfers. It happens by LCs. So it is only as and when the LC matures that the payments become due. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, giving the corporation time to be able to sell the products in the market, and that's why they use this instrument to be able to extend that time. But be as it may, as we speak, the value of goods delivered so far is Kenya shillings 4.8 billion. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer you to Annex 15C2 for the detailed breakdown of procured imported commodities and the status for supplier payments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable C7A, the senator asking the main question, the primary question, has the opportunity to ask two other supplementary questions. Now, Senator Chute, you may elect to ask them at once, or you may elect to ask one and thereafter allow your colleagues to ask supplementary questions, and then you come in the last.
Thank you once again, Honorable Speaker. I will ask one question first and the other one after my colleagues have asked. My question, Mr. Speaker, to the CS is there is a list of pre-qualified suppliers for the supply of goods, Annex 15A. If you look at 22 pre-qualified entities, there is a supplier by the name First Quality Supplies Limited, who supplied 25 metric tons of fertilizer not listed in the 22 pre-qualified suppliers. How did he end up giving contract of 22 metric tons, 25,000 metric tons to this supplier without pre-qualification? Thank you.
Honourable Sears.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to defer that question until the next round of questions so that I can be able to make some consultation.
You can consult with your team, and thereafter you will proceed to respond.
Absolutely.
Just consult.
Much obliged.
Senator Kinyua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been reading and watching on news the issue of importation of edible oil, which has been equated almost to a scandal. Can kindly the minister elaborate to this House the interest of the importers on this issue, and Mr. Speaker, the connection to the same to the media of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Sears.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Senator, for that question. Mr. Speaker, over the last 6 months or so, this country has allowed, through a Gazette notice, importation of 1.4 million metric tons of maize to address the issue of maize shortage and the skyrocketing price of unga, which was as high as 250 by the September last year. Mr. Speaker, this country has also allowed importation of 1.2 million tons of rice, despite the fact that we have got rice in Moya, in Kirinyaga County, we have got rice in Ahero, in Kisumu County, but it was necessary because of the drought situation, the famine, the food shortage that was there, to make that move and also to manage the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we got approval from Cabinet to import 125,000 metric tons of edible oil. Mr. Speaker, you'll notice that of all those three products, the one with the least amount that was allowed to be imported was edible oil. 1.4 million maize, 1.2 million rice, only 100,000 metric tons of edible oil. Yet the attention out there is not about rice, and farmers from Moya and Ahero would be justified to rise and say, why are you importing rice? And we have got rice we farm rice. But Mr. Speaker, the farmers of Moya and Ahero, they don't have a voice. They don't have the deep pockets. They don't have the money. They don't have the kind of checkbooks as would be required to create the kind of noise that has been heard in the media. Only this item, 125,000, out of which, Mr. Speaker, the amount of edible oil that has landed in this country is only 3,000 metric tons. That is close to 170,000 jerry cans of 20 liters that are used in our homes. So only 170,000 families is what have benefited from what has been imported by KNTC. Mr. Speaker, when we started this importation, there were even cartoons in the media. There were a lot of jokes and memes going around in social media about the price of edible oil. It was said to be among the most expensive things to buy. By that time, Mr. Speaker, 1 liter of edible oil around first week of December, when I addressed the Kenya Association of Manufacturers about this issue, it was 400 shillings per kilo. And that time, Mr. Speaker, on my first day of work, speaking at KICC, after being sworn in, I told the edible oil industry that this is not acceptable and this is not sustainable. And I asked them to do whatever it takes to ensure that we have a level playing field, and also to ensure that the price of edible oil comes down. Mr. Speaker, I instructed KNTC to import edible oil with a target that 1 kilo of edible oil would retail at 250 shillings. Mr. Speaker, because of only 170,000 jerry cans, the price of edible oil today has dropped to 218 shillings per liter, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is despite the dollar, which by the time I gave that instruction, the dollar was going for 125 shillings. Today, the dollar is hovering in the region of 140. Yet, Mr. Speaker, the price of edible oil has dropped to 218 shillings, to the relief of so many Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, what is the problem with the edible oil industry? The problem with the edible oil industry is that 55 million Kenyans depend on 5 companies. If 5 companies collude and they decide to poison, all of us are going to be in very deep trouble. These 5 companies, Mr. Speaker, are Bidco, and I'll talk about Bidco later. There's a company known as Kappa, a company known as Pwani Oil, a company known as Menengai, and a company known as Golden Africa. These companies, they engage in what they call their own version of value addition. What?
Senator Chute, you know you cannot raise a point of order against the CS.
Leading the House. We don't have only 5, we have more than 5, Mr. Speaker. Let him do his research well and come back with the...
Senator, Honorable CS, the Senator from Marsabit has just stated that the information you're giving to the Senate is inaccurate, in that you're giving us a list of companies that is not exhaustive. So could you make that clarification as you move?
Mr. Speaker, as a minister in charge of industry, I am the one who licenses manufacturers. And all manufacturers has to get something called SKU from the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which is in my ministry. I would be happy, Mr. Speaker, to get any further information with the specific SKUs from the Honorable Senator Chute, so that I can be guided. But let me say this. What do these companies do? Mr. Speaker, these are companies who are said to be engaging in the business of manufacturing or value addition of crude palm oil.
Honorable CS, I listened carefully to the question asked by the Senator for Laikipia. And I don't see the relevance of that response to that question asked by Senator Kinyua. I think for the last 5 minutes you've done very well, going straight to responding to that question. But what you are now proceeding to do, I do not see the relevance to that question that has been asked. So if you're done responding to the question by Senator Kinyua, you may yield and allow other senators to pose further questions.
Mr. Speaker, I stand guided. And to the specific question of Senator Kinyua, the reason that there is the outcry in the media is that, in my honest opinion, is noise sponsored by these 5 companies which I have stated, which have continued to enjoy monopoly, which are using the profits they have made historically to fight our efforts to bring down the cost of living, and who have got a lot of money because they enjoy this monopoly status. Because if an ordinary person wants to bring in the same product that these companies are doing, any other company is slapped with import duty of 35%, whereas these people pay 0 in terms of duty. So, Mr. Speaker, the direct nexus between the answer that I've given and the question asked by the Senator Kinyua is that the media is working for these cartels who want to lock out everybody, want to lock out the no ordinary person, the hustler, who want to keep the prices high as it has been historically, and they will do anything possible to scuttle any need to move.
Honorable CS, you're making very grave allegations. And the rules that apply in this House are that you should be able to substantiate any allegation that you make before this House. One of the allegations you're making is that there are 5 companies that run like a cartel. Secondly, that these companies are sponsoring headlines. Honorable CS, those allegations, if you cannot prove them, kindly drop them. If you can prove them, go ahead and give us factual basis of those allegations.
Mr. Speaker, last Sunday, I was engaging a journalist who wanted clarification about some of the issues that we are discussing here today. Mr. Speaker, the name of that journalist is Gerard Andai from Daily Nation and Business Daily. And I asked him, Mr. Andai, I find it difficult to continue giving you answers because even when we provide the correct information about edible oil, you continue to write negative stories. That gentleman from the nation, Mr. Speaker, told me, I have received from Ms. Pamela Mutua, the CEO of KNTC, all the answers and the trends of the downward spiral of edible oil prices. But every time I write the correct truth, my editors tell me that all they want is a negative story. Mr. Speaker, that conversation did not happen verbally. That conversation happened over WhatsApp, so I have got evidence to substantiate. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, now, Honorable CS and Honorable Members, statements in the media are inadmissible and they do not speak to the accuracy of any matter that can be discussed in this House. And therefore, as you rise to ask supplementary questions, don't refer to any statement in the press. And I'm going to read to you Standing Order 51B. Other than an official government report,